Hello, my name is Corinne Moyer. I am a sophomore nursing student here at Bloomsburg. I chose the topic of comparing women's rights, India versus China, after reading Chapter 3 in our textbook about human rights. I think it is important to know and understand what women in other countries are going through as we face our own fight for women's rights here in the United States. Not everyone is as fortunate as we are here in America. So here is a definition of women's rights directly taken from our class textbook titled Global Issues, Politics, Economics, and Culture. And the definition says that it's widely regarded as a category of human rights that deserves special attention, and it's primarily focused on social equality of women when compared to men. I chose to compare India and China because they are two developing countries today. These statistics are a baseline indicator of similarities and differences between the two countries. India's population is 1.31 billion. The population growth is 1.25%. The contraceptive prevalence is 54.8%. The GDP growth rate is 7.56%. The adult literacy is 72.23%. The life expectancy is 68 years. Infant mortality rate is 37.9 out of 1,000 live births, and female survival rate up to age 65 is 73.7%. Comparatively, China's population is 1.37 billion. Population growth is 0.44%. The contraceptive prevalence is 84.6%. The GDP growth rate is 6.9%. Adult literacy is 96.36%. Life expectancy is 75 years. Infant mortality rate is 9.2 out of 1,000 live births. And the female survival rate up to age 65 is 86.9%. So as you can tell, India has definite room to improve, especially when talking about education and life expectancy. Relating to the life expectancy, we have to think about how that would improve when women's rights are improved, because women would then be protected under the law and they would be able to get health care and the things that they need to improve their life expectancy. This comparison gives a very basic outline of how India and China's government systems are run. India is a federal republic established by the Constitution of India. The federal government is composed of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Basic civil and criminal laws are made in major parliament legislation, and the legal system is based on the English common and statutory law. China is a communist state and is divided into several bodies: the legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch, and the military branch. Power is guaranteed by the People's Republic of China's Constitution through the position of supreme political authority with comprehensive control of state, military, and media. While it seems like India's system is functional and democratic, many laws are not regulated, giving women very little protection under their system. The Gender Inequality Index is a synthetic indicator that measures how far the European Union and its member states are from achieving a society that is both gender equal and performant. The closer to zero, the better the equality. In India, the value is 0.563. The rank is 130 out of 188. Maternal mortality is 174 out of 100,000. Women in parliament is 12.12%. Females over 25 with a secondary education is 27%. Women in the labor force is 29%. In China, the value is 0.213. The rank is 35 out of 188. Maternal mortality is 37 out of 100,000. Women in parliament is 21.3%. Females over 25 with a secondary education is 54.8%, and women in labor force is 67.7%. So here you can see some obvious differences in the gender inequality. Now, the Global Gender Gap Report, this measures the gender equality as well, but the highest possible score is a 1, and that means that they're equal. And the lowest score is 0, meaning high inequality. So in India, this value is 0.563, and the rank is 87 out of 144. In China, the value is 0.6908, rank 69 out of 144, making China still the better option here. Life in India is difficult for women. Family is seen as patrilineal or descent through the male line. Most marriages are arranged. Women wear a sari, which is a long piece of fabric worn around the body. Salwar kameez, the traditional outfit, a bindi, which is makeup, and sindoor, which is a red-colored cosmetic powder that signifies that they are married. Female literacy is less than males, and there are fewer girls enrolled in school, and more tend to drop out. Girls are fed less than boys, and they have one of the highest rates of malnourished women among developing countries. Girls are less likely to receive vaccines, and fewer women visit the hospitals when compared to men. And this is largely due to not being able to travel and having the access to do that. There are over 40 women's safety laws, and the government states that women's rights are secured under the Constitution and that they focus on equality, dignity, and freedom from discrimination. They also claim to have statutes regarding rights, but women continue to face horrible situations. Examples will follow this slide. India is the 4th most dangerous place in the world to live in as a woman, and many argue that it is the most dangerous place to be born a girl. The first example is acid throwing. Males usually throw acid on female victims' face to burn them and damage their skin, sometimes down to the bone. Acid is cheap and accessible, causing this to be a common practice. These attacks against women are for revenge when they refuse proposals, ask for a divorce, refuse sexual advances, have dowry disagreements, and have land disputes. Here are several pictures to show how acid affects Indian women physically, not even to mention how this affects them psychologically and emotionally. Second is child marriage. This was outlawed in 1929 under the Child Marriage Restraint Act, but is still commonly practiced today. The definition of child marriage by India is that it is under 18 years for men and under 15 years for women, but the definition of child marriage by the world is under 18 years for both men and women. 47% of women ages 20 to 24 years old were married before the age of 18, and this even rises in the rural areas to 56%. And 40% of the world's total child marriages occur in India. So as you can see, child marriage is a common issue in India. Third is domestic violence, which is an endemic or regularly found in India and is considered to be physical, psychological, or sexual abuse. 70% of women are victims of domestic violence, and this was addressed legally in 1983 with the Criminal Law Act Section 498A and the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005, but it's not handled as a crime or a complaint, but as a private family matter. And many women refuse to report due to their sociocultural status. I think the picture speaks volumes. 603 million women live where domestic violence is not considered a crime. That right there is the prime example to show how India's government does not protect women or their rights. The National Crime Bureau found crimes against women are committed every 3 minutes. They are raped every 29 minutes. They face dowry death every 77 minutes. And cruelty committed by husband or his relative is every 9 minutes. The fourth example is dowry, where property and money is brought by a bride to her husband on their marriage day. This poses great financial burden on the women's family. In 1961, a Dowry Prohibition Act passed to make dowry demands illegal, but this is really not followed. National Crime Records Bureau reported 8,618 dowry deaths, and some believe it actually is 3 times higher that they go unreported. The term bride burning is from this concept where women die in the kitchen fires that are thought to be intentional because their dowry is not paid, so their husband murders them. And this happens to about 12 women a day. The fifth example is female infanticide and sex-selective abortion. There are high rates of female sex-selective abortions because girls are seen more as a liability and boys are seen as a retirement fund. The government passed a law forbidding couples to find out their baby's gender in hopes that this would decrease the female abortion rate, but this is highly ignored. As you can see in the chart, fewer girls are being born, which is causing the boy-to-girl ratio to become skewed. I attached the video link as a real-life example of what happened to a woman's daughter in India because she was simply born a girl. The last example is rape. 24,923 rapes were reported across India in a year, with 98% of them knowing the perpetrator, and only 5 to 6% of rapes are reported. 7,200 minors are raped each year, who then are humiliated and mistreated by police and then trafficked. And something that I found extremely surprising is that the Criminal Law Act in India of 2013 maintains marital exemption, quote, sexual intercourse or sexual acts by a man with his own wife, the wife not being under 15 years of age, is not rape, end quote. And 80% of women experience sexual harassment, but many go unreported. So as you can see, not many instances are reported here in India, and that's due to fear and not having the government behind them. Here are some examples of life in China for women. Marriage law banned arranged marriages and moved away from the male-dominated society to also have focus on women and children. They banned dowry weddings, although bride price is still common in rural areas. Women can initiate divorce. 94.5% of women are literate. Healthcare reform allows men and women equal access. As you can see, this is a major difference when compared to India. But China also had the one-child policy and the Iron Fist campaigns, which aimed to control the population growth. While China is not free of discrimination, it has been making improvements and aiming to make things more equal for their men and women. Domestic violence is also an issue here in China. 30% of women face this in their homes, but when you compare this to India, their number is 70%. Chinese marriage laws offer mediation services and compensation, unlike India, and domestic violence is criminalized with the law of protection of rights and interests of women. So, as this is still an issue, China at least has help afterwards for their victims to get through the pain of domestic violence. Furthermore, foot binding has been outlawed since 1912, and by 1949 it was successfully banned. So now it simply serves as a reminder of the past, quote, oppression of women, insularity, deposition, and disregard for human rights. So, as you can tell, human rights and women's rights specifically in China has been improving, unlike in India. China has also dealt with trafficking of young women and girls who are kidnapped from their homes and sold to gangs who traffic them. A campaign was made to make this act punishable by law, and the campaign also helped rehabilitate women to provide medical treatment, thought reform, job training, and family reintegration. This is another example of how China is taking steps in order to help women after attacks have occurred. Neither country is perfect, and it is obvious that both countries have faced issues and corruption, but India has a lot of crimes against women and very minimal enforced laws to protect them, while China's laws are enforced and have systems in place to help women after attacks have occurred. Therefore, India needs drastic change from within their country and their government to enforce laws that protect women from harm. People can help by volunteering in India through non-governmental organizations to help empower women to overcome issues they face on a daily basis. Indian women are so used to being secondary to everything that it is hard for them to realize their own strength and worth. So organizations like Commit to Change is a major empowerment group, and I encourage you to go check them out. Also, the United Nations Secretary General created Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign in 2008 to end violence against women, but not enough change has been enforced. Therefore, change really needs to come from within India, within their government, and within the people to want to create change to help women and fight for their rights. Thank you for listening to my presentation. As this is the end of my presentation, it is not the end of fighting for women's rights across the world. Fight for what you believe in and help make a difference. Thanks again.